All right, let's get started. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first session of the day. I hope you're having a great conference so far. This is definitely an exciting conference. I'm excited to be here in Chicago with 20,000 people. It's a lot of people. You can see it on the hallways. So it's really exciting to see the enthusiasm and all the different technologies that we're announcing here at Microsoft. So today, we're here to talk about how can you extend your custom solutions to increase productivity and provide more power to your users by reaching out to Word, Excel, and PowerPoint through Office add-ins. So to frame this session, I just want to refer to the developer vision. This was covered in more detail by Rob Lefferts in the developer kickoff session for Office. But in summary, we are trying to reinvent the way you extend Office for the cloud and devices. And we're doing that in two main ways. The first one is about extending the experiences that users have within our Office clients. So it's all about Office users being able to get extra functionality that doesn't come out of the box by having you guys extending the capabilities of the Office applications. The second area is about exposing all our data and services through a set of REST APIs that can be called from any other application, be it a device application on your phone or tablet, or another web application, or even from a server, a service-to-service connection to Office. So in today's session, we're going to focus on the user aspect. So we're going to drill down into how can you extend contextual experiences within the Office clients. Now we're going to structure this session on four main topics. We're going to do a quick overview of Office add-ins for some of you that are new to the space or learning the technology. I'm going to spend some time, the majority of the time in the session, talking about what's new in the last 3 to 6 months, because this is a platform that we've been evolving. And there's a lot of things that we are announcing last week and this week. We're going to talk a little bit about the roadmap so that you have a sense of what's coming and how to plan your investments going forward. And then we have a call to action at the end. So let's start with Office add-ins. There is a big opportunity. Rob Lefferts also talked about this opportunity. And there are some impressive numbers around Office. There's more than 1 billion Office users that are using Office an average of 2 to 3 hours a day. And around 10% of those users are already using Office in mobile devices, on the phone or on the tablet. And we just expect these numbers to continue to grow. This percentage of users using Office on the desktop, but also on other devices, is going to keep growing. And we're seeing some very healthy trends on there. So the numbers make sense. There is also a very compelling reason to think about extending Office when you create a custom solution, as opposed to just create a standalone solution that doesn't leverage Office. And it is all about productivity. I would say productivity from two perspectives. For end users, the ability to be in the Office client and reach out to other systems, it's really important. Office is not the only software that users use. There's other softwares, especially in the enterprise. Users need to connect to other systems, to business processes, to databases. And I've seen so many times users that are very efficient in Excel, but then they need to context switch to another application, like a CRM system, to get customer information. And then they need to go to a different screen, remember a set of credentials, enter their password, get the information they want. They normally do copy-paste, bring the information in Excel, and then spend a bunch of time just making sure that the formatting and the data comes in the right structure. So there's a lot of opportunity to still increase productivity. Even though Office is a productivity suite, all the activities that happen beyond Office are not necessarily the most efficient today. And that is where there is a great opportunity for you to create solutions that extend Office and make these experiences end-to-end really efficient. Now, from a developer perspective, there's also a big productivity gain here. So when you create a solution, if your solution is going to have functions where Office already excels, like content authoring, data analysis, team collaboration, you already have a very powerful platform with Office. So instead of building those functions from scratch, you can think about, why don't I build on top of Office and then really focus on the value add of the solution. So Office is going to be a great platform for you to be able to add additional value and additional productivity. So as a developer, you can spend your time and be more productive by creating value on top. So with this in mind, we're going to then talk about how do you do it. And the answer here is you do it through Office add-ins. Now, Office has supported add-ins for a long time now through different technologies. We had COM add-ins, VSTO add-ins, and now we're introducing a new type of add-ins. We're going to call them in this session web add-ins. So I'd like to ask you, how many of you have already created projects or solutions that use COM or VSTO add-ins? Okay, like 70% of the room. That's great. Today, we're going to talk about a new type of add-in. We introduced this new type of add-in in Office 2013, and we call them apps for Office. Now we are renaming apps for Office. We're going to rename them to Office add-ins. We're going to call them web add-ins to distinguish them from the VSTO and COM type. But going forward, we're going to update our products and our terminology to use Office add-ins. So for you, if you're already familiar with apps for Office, going forward, apps for Office is going to be Office add-ins. So I'd like to ask you, how many of you have already used apps for Office in a real project or solution? Okay, just a few, so a lot of new people. So I guess the rest of you are here to learn about this new concept of apps for Office or Office add-ins. So these terms, you will still see the apps for Office term in the products, in some of the screens, even in some of the demos, you will see apps. But there's going to be a period of time where we do the renaming in the products, so you will still see the two terms. Eventually, everything is going to be called add-ins across the board. So in this session, if I say apps or you see apps on the products, it's the same thing. Apps for Office are Office add-ins. And now, what is different or valuable about this new model? So these new apps for Office or Office add-ins are different from the traditional COM and VSTO add-ins in a few different ways. The first one is that they are going to run everywhere. Everywhere Office runs, these add-ins will be supported. And this is a huge difference compared to COM and VSTO. By the way, we're going to continue to support COM and VSTO add-ins on the desktop. We have no plans to discontinue that technology. However, if you want to create solutions that take advantage of environments beyond the desktop, like Office Online, devices like the iPad, Android, or even the new Universal Windows apps for Office, then you will want to create the new Office web add-ins. These new Office web add-ins are created using web technologies. So in contrast with COM and VSTO, you don't use C# or C++. You will use JavaScript and HTML. And the life cycle of these, the way you deploy and make them available to your users, is really streamlined. There is a very easy end-user acquisition experience with the notion of a central catalog that can be the global Office store that we have out there, or it can also be a corporate private catalog of add-ins that you set up in your own company or enterprise. And lastly, these add-ins are very well suited to integrate with the rest of Office 365. So Office 365, as we talked at the beginning, is going to be exposed as a set of REST interfaces. So you'll have access to a rich amount of data coming from Office 365. Office add-ins, since they are built using the same technologies on the web, they will be able to integrate with the rest of Office 365. So you can integrate with Office and your services, but you can also, from your add-in, connect to the rest of Office 365, to OneDrive, to Exchange, to SharePoint, and then create a really compelling solution. Now, since there's a lot of new people learning about these new Office add-ins, let's do a quick demo to show you the current state of the world. So we introduced these in 2013, and so far there's been a lot of interesting solutions being created. So I'm going to show you just a few examples of what people are already doing with Office add-ins today. So I'm going to come here to my Insert menu in Excel, and I have my apps. Again, this is part of the renaming that will happen. And I have an experience where I can find all the apps that I have acquired from the store. You can imagine there's a typical store acquisition experience. I can actually go here to the store and see what the store has to offer to me, search, browse, and acquire new apps. In this case, I want to show you one particular app. This app is called Business Solutions from Dun & Bradstreet. And Dun & Bradstreet is a company that has the largest database about businesses in the world. So they have information about revenue, they have information about marketing, contact information, and they created this solution in Excel that allows me to bring information from their database right into Excel. So let's take a look. I'm going to go to these marketing solutions, and they have this function that allows me to search for prospects. So let's say I'm a small software company based out of San Francisco, and I want to sell my software to small retailers in the area. So I'm going to go to this app and do a query. So I'm going to enter the area where I want to query, in this case the United States. I'm going to use California in this case. And let's say I'm based on San Francisco. There we go. I'm also going to specify the industry that I want to target. I want to get my prospects from retail. So they have several categories. I'm just going to select the general retail. And in terms of company size, I want to check companies that are not doing that well with revenue. They have less than 1 million of revenue, but they have more than 10 employees. Those companies probably need some help in terms of automation and using software. I'm just going to click this button here. You can see how they have an interesting business model going on here where they charge per transaction. So there's also very interesting revenue opportunities. I'm going to accept the charge to get this data. They're going to query that and then come back with a list of prospects that match that criteria, and I can just click and insert them in my Excel spreadsheet. So that's great. In a couple of clicks, I didn't have to leave Excel. I have my data already there in context. Now, since I'm in Excel, I can start doing the natural things I would do in Excel. I can quickly come here and do some conditional formatting for the employees to visualize which companies have the biggest number of employees. But in this case, I also care about the location of the companies. So I would like to put these companies on a map. So let's see how Office add-ins allow me to very easily do that. In this case, since I'm in Excel, I'm going to use the built-in functions of Excel that I'm already familiar with. I'm going to use the flash fill that allows me to very easily, by example, tell Excel what I want to do. And in this case, I want to join 3 columns to create the full address in a single column. So I'm going to copy the address from the first column and then just concatenate that so that Excel knows what I want. and then I'm going to go to the Data tab. I'm just using Excel functionality, and that is the power of Office add-ins. They are in context with Excel. You didn't need to build this as part of your custom solution. This is Excel functionality, but it's providing value to the end-to-end scenario. So you see how I very easily converted these 3 columns into 1 column, just using Excel. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to select the data from these columns, and I want to visualize it on a map. So I'm going to come here and insert another app, in this case, the Bing Maps app, or add-in, and I'm going to tell the add-in, please put this information in a map. I'm going to use a different type of visualization. And then you can see how now I can see the data in a visual format in the map. And this particular visualization allows me to see the ratio of sales and company size. So I can see the big red ones are the ones that are probably more likely to need some software automation. In this case, this company is doing way less than $1 million, and they have 20 employees, compared to others that have less than 10 employees and already doing more revenue. So this is a really great target for my solution. So another thing I want to show you is we said these add-ins are going to work across all the different places where Office works. So I'm going to save this workbook in my OneDrive. So I'm connected to my Office 365, and I have my OneDrive there. I'm going to call it Prospects and just save it. So what I want to show you is I'm not tied to use this add-in just on the desktop, like with COM and VSTO. With these new type of add-ins, you can come to the web. In this case, I'm going to navigate to my OneDrive and refresh here. And that document is now there. So now I'm going to open that document in Excel Online. And as you would expect, those add-ins that work on the desktop also work on Excel Online. Should work. If it's a network issue, let me try to refresh. Interesting. All right, I'll come back to these. I'll leave it some time, see if it's just a slow network. Let me switch back to my presentation. So now, I want to show you a couple more demos. We saw Excel. What about Word and PowerPoint? So let's take a look what else is going on with add-ins in other clients. So in this case, I want to show you just a glimpse of some of the types of solutions that are being created. I found this one particularly interesting. This is called MindOMapper. It's available on their store. And it's an application or an add-in that allows me to quickly create mind maps in the context of Word and integrate some content into Word. So in this case, I can come here and select a word in my Word document and say, hey, please create me a new mind map about that word. In this case, you have video. And this is interesting because this is searching the web and automatically doing some insights for me around video. Let's say I want to expand on HTML video. I can create this map node, and it goes and does an additional search. And of course, I can extend with my own ideas, like HTML5. I can add my new idea here. And once I'm done with my diagram, of course, I can come here and say, now I want to make it part of my document. So I just click a button, and in a matter of seconds, I already created a new type of diagram that was not possible before. So you can imagine this can be any type of content. It can be a sales report, a sales graph that allows the user to very easily and efficiently create this type of information in Word. Now let me jump to PowerPoint just to give you a sense of the other types of apps that are being created. In this case, I have this slide. This is the typical slide that we create in conferences to evaluate sessions. And they need to put these QR codes in the slide. So there is an add-in that allows me to do that. So let's say I want to create a QR code for dev.office.com. This add-in is going to do it for me. I want to make it blue. And then I can easily just come and paste it. So again, without leaving my application, I can do very productive stuff. We have other examples. This is Poll Everywhere. It's a very popular app that allows you to do live polling. So if you're in a presentation and want to poll your audience and have the live results showing in your presentation, this is a great app for that. Some other interesting, more unique examples in the education space, we're seeing a lot of use of add-ins for educators that want to create interactive experiences in their presentations. So take, for example, this lab that allows me to play with, understand the concentration of a substance in a liquid. So this is a completely interactive lab inside of PowerPoint. You can see how students would be able to learn more easily in an interactive presentation like this. But this is not limited to just this type of scenarios. Imagine this could be a sales report that is getting live data from some database, and it's just projecting inside a slide. Since they are created with HTML5 and JavaScript, you can pretty much do anything that you would like in terms of providing new types of contents in PowerPoint. Now, people typically ask me, but can you really create like enterprise-grade solutions with these Office add-ins, or is it just like about smaller gadgets? And the answer is, with what we have today already, it is possible to create real business solutions, and I want to show you an example of that. If you went to the Office Developer Kickoff, you probably already saw this demo, but I want to drill down a little bit more into what's going behind the scenes. So I'm going to show you the demo that connects Excel with SAP. This is a real project that we're driving together with SAP to connect to the different Office clients. And a lot of the questions about this is, what about my on-prem data? If this is running on the cloud or some web server, how do I get access from my add-in to my on-prem data? What about security? How do I manage authentication and permissions for my users? How about connectivity and reaching out to different devices? So in this case, this is the architecture that we implemented for this SAP Excel integration. It is an add-in that runs across desktop, Excel Online, and devices, in this case the iPad. It uses an enterprise gateway created by SAP that is hosted on the cloud that takes care of the functions of identity mapping, so mapping your Office 365 identity as a user to some identity that SAP can recognize. And it also knows how to punch through the firewall in case you have your SAP installation on-prem. And it's exposing all these services through web interfaces that are easily reachable through an Office add-in. So with this, you can see how you can create solutions that are available on any device to your users and can reach out all the way back to LOB systems like SAP. So let me actually show you that this is actually working, and it's not just smoke and mirrors. So in this machine, I installed the SAP GUI that end users use to interact with SAP data. And I'll be connecting to that gateway on the cloud that in turn is connecting to some server that contains the actual data. So just to show you that this is actually going all the way down to SAP. So in this case, just going to go through the screens that a typical SAP user goes through. In this case, there's a series of records here that represent car sales and their contacts. So you can see how I have this first record assigned to this contact name. And I'm going to come here and change. This is the data. If I'm going to refresh here to get the data. So you can see that record that I was seeing is this Sapphire user record. They just changed it. Seems that someone is using that database as well from the SAP side. So I'm going to come here in Excel and then just make some changes. Let's say I want to be the contact for a few of these cars, and I'm going to say I'm going to take these 3 cars and assign them to me. I can click this button. It is going to connect to SAP and see what is there, what do I have on Excel, and then tell me, okay, there's some changes. What do you want to do with those? In this case, I want to say use Excel for all changes and update SAP. So, and that's done. You see, I didn't have to leave Excel. I didn't have to remember my SAP credentials. I can manage this information from within Excel. Now, if I go to SAP and refresh, you can see the 4th record. In this case, it's going to be this one. My name is there. So I just updated that particular record. You can see the 3 records I updated in Excel are updated in SAP. So you can see how, this is really a powerful model. And on the developer kickoff, you saw this working on the iPad. I'm going to skip that demo because you saw it already. But this add-in works, again, online, on the iPad, and on the desktop. Now let's switch gears and talk about what's new. So far, we have seen add-ins that are possible today. What are the things that we just announced in the last couple of weeks or in the last month? I want to talk a little bit about that for those of you that have already been working with this platform. And for that, I'm going to show you how easy it is to really create Office add-ins that increase the productivity of users. So we're going to create a productivity solution from scratch. Now, just before that, I want to show you a couple of things that we just announced. First one is we renewed our Getting Started experience. So for all of you that are learning about this platform, dev.office.com has a brand new experience. If you go there, you will find this Get Started entry point, which is a great way to learn about everything new here. And there is 3 sections in that page. The Office 365 APIs, we talked about, that give you access to the data. The Office add-ins and the SharePoint add-ins, which is a very similar concept, but on the SharePoint side. In this case, if you come to Office add-ins, you will find this Explore JavaScript API. And this is a simple page that allows you to get familiar with how add-ins work. So I want to just show you because I think you will find it very interesting way to learn. So here you have Excel Online embedded in that page. And this is an add-in running inside Online. Now, this add-in turns to be a tutorial add-in that allows you to execute JavaScript. And it has a series of examples. In this case, I have a Hello World example. I can change the code here and say, Hello Ignite, run the code, and it shows me how to write data to my Excel spreadsheet. So you can see a very simple call using JavaScript and the Office APIs. I can do similar things to read the text. And the tutorial goes on, and you can see more things. So if you want to learn, there is a very easy way to get started there. There is also a very nice tool called Napa that allows you to create Office add-ins just in the browser. So you don't need to have any other development environment, just the browser. So if you have a Mac or you have any other type of machine, you don't have Visual Studio or even Windows, you can still do this. So let me show you. One of the announcements that we did last week is that this Napa experience is now available just with your Microsoft credentials. Before you had to have an Office 365 subscription to use this. Now you don't. Now you can just go with your Hotmail account, log in, and you'll be able to use this tool. So let me show you how quickly it is to create an add-in in this tool. So I'm going to create a visualization add-in. Let's call it DataVis, just with the default project template. And this is going to, in the browser, create me a full solution. You can see it has an HTML file, JavaScript. It has all the elements that we'll need on a simple solution. And I can just come here and run it. This is going to deploy the solution and use, in this case, Excel Online to run my add-in and allow me to debug this solution. So again, I didn't have to install Office or any development environment. Now, the point of this new Office add-in platform is that you can develop these things using any web tool. Obviously, Visual Studio is going to provide a very rich and robust experience. So if you're used to Visual Studio, that's the best tool for you to use. But if not, you can really use any web editor of your choice, because all you're doing is creating HTML files, JavaScript, and OpenXML. Now, in this case, I'm going to start that add-in, and you can see it's a simple, out-of-the-box project, but that allows me to see the capabilities here. I can see the data. If I come here and change this data, I will need to edit the workbook. So you can see this add-in is running in Excel Online. So if I come here and change the data, there's an event you can subscribe to and then respond to that. Now, I want to show you another of the new things is we added support for these add-ins in the iPad. Well, this support was announced. We will be releasing this month to the Apple Store in the new release of Excel. And you will see Word and PowerPoint coming soon. So I want to show you, if you're a developer, you're probably going to want your add-in to work on mobile devices too. And how do you go about that? So, because you're going to have to also test your add-ins in those devices. So I want to show you just a quick example of how to test an add-in that you're developing in the iPad. So let's take this project, this same project, and I'm going to basically sideload it to my iPad so that I can continue the development and make sure it works. Obviously, because we are using web technologies, the development is very similar to the web. The same way in the web you need to test that your add-ins, that your web applications work across browsers like Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Google Chrome. You will have a similar situation here because you're effectively going to be running your add-in in those contexts. In Windows, for example, we use IE as the engine to render your add-in. But in the iPad, we use Safari. And in Excel Online or Office Online in general, the users could be using any type of browser to browse your solution. So you will want to test these solutions on all these different browsers. But this is no different of web development. If you are doing web development, you are already familiar with this challenge. So I'm going to show you how to go from here. And this Napa tool has a very nice way to transfer my project to Visual Studio in case I want to continue my development there. So I'm going to click that button and do that, just because I want to show you also the experience of Visual Studio. So I'm going to open that same project that I started in Napa. Now it's being downloaded to my local machine and being opened in Visual Studio. So again, you don't need to be tied to a particular tool. You can do this in any tool of choice. So I have this same solution. I'm going to click Start and see it run. So I would expect it to run. So we saw it running in Excel Online. Now we're going to see it running on the desktop. So again, I can insert some sample data, and the solution is exactly the same. So same code base. So from a developer perspective, this is also productivity, right? You don't need to code for different platforms. You can have one common code base, target all the platforms. Only thing you need to do is test your code on all the different browser environments. And this is what we're going to show here. So we saw that my add-in works well in Firefox. In here, we're using IE. And now, I want to do this in the iPad. So I'm going to show how this is running inside the iPad with Safari as the engine. So I'm going to stop this project. And in order to do this, I'm going to publish this solution. So I also want to show you how Visual Studio makes it really easy to publish these to Azure. One critical aspect of these Office add-ins is that they are hosted on a web server. So once you're done with your project, you publish it to a web server. And the advantage of that is that updates, you just need to make them on the web server, and your users automatically get them. So the life cycle of the add-in is very, very simple. So in this case, I'm going to deploy it to Azure, but you can actually deploy it to any standard web server, even on other platforms, Linux with Apache. It doesn't really matter as long as the server returns valid HTTP and HTML responses. So in this case, I'm going to use Visual Studio to simplify the deployment. It's really easy. I just come here, and I can say I want to deploy it to my Microsoft Azure website. It's going to give me the collection of websites that I already have. I'm going to select this one to publish this project. And with that, I'm just going to say I'm going to access this over HTTPS. That is a requirement. If you create an add-in that needs to be loaded in Office, it needs to be served over HTTPS. So, and just say publish. This is going to very quickly create this add-in and upload it to my Azure website. So here it is. It's trying to browse the root, but if I go to the actual location of the page, you can see there is the add-in. Obviously, it is non-functional because it's running outside of Office, but you can see the HTML is there. Now, with that, the only thing that I need to do now that it's in the cloud, now I can load it in my iPad. How do I go about doing that? Now, I need the manifest of my add-in. The manifest is just a simple XML file that I need to either publish to my catalog on the Office Store or my corporate catalog. In this case, since I'm doing development, I'm going to sideload that to my iPad. So let's do that. I'm just going to press this Package the App button here, and this basically tells me the URL in which this app is hosted. I'm going to accept that default, and this is going to give me an XML file. That's all I need to put on my iPad to see this running. So I'm going to connect my iPad. And the way this is going to happen is very simple. If you have iTunes either on a Mac or on Windows, you come here and you browse to the app section inside iTunes. All you need to do is basically copy that manifest that we created in Visual Studio, in this case, to the Excel application that you will find inside your iPad. So I have Excel in my iPad. You can see it here. There is already a database there. I'm going to delete it so that you can see the new one. And I'm going to drag this one to my iPad. And that's it. Now that file is on the iPad for Excel. And I can now show you, if I go to Excel on my iPad, there it is. If I come here and start a new workbook, I come to Insert, and I should find that database add-in right there. So you can see on the iPad, we have a new add-ins entry point. You can also acquire new ones if you see all. In this case, I'm just going to insert this one, the data visualization we just created. And you can see how it is fully functional. Again, I can come here, change the data, so same functionality. right? So the graph updates. So this is what we mean when we talk about write once and run everywhere Office runs. So single code base running across 3 different clients. So very powerful. Now, this is probably, thank you. This is probably not very interesting. So we talked about this is all about productivity, right? So this app is like, yeah, it's a cool visualization, but it's just the default project that came. Let's create something real. Let's create something that you would say, yeah, this is something that helps with productivity. So for that, I'm going to switch back to my PC. Let me actually close these iTunes. And I'm going to start a new project from scratch. In this case, I want to create a solution to save time to salespeople that create project proposals. So in this case, let's imagine I'm in a company and we do this type of project where the team structure is normally the same. The only thing that changes is the names and the rates and the prices that I'm offering to the particular client. But I need to create these proposals in Word and send them to the client and get them signed and all that. And I spend a lot of time formatting them and creating these like team structure diagrams. So I want to create a solution, an Office add-in that allows me to automate that. So let's go ahead and start a brand new project. I want to show you how in a few minutes we're going to create a very compelling solution that will increase the productivity of the users in this scenario. And I'm going to call it my Team Builder add-in. I want it to be a task pane. I want it to be for Word in this case in particular. And we already talked about the scenario. I'm going to use one template that people use in this case for creating the sales proposals. Now, Visual Studio gives me a default set of artifacts that I can use to start with. Let's just take a look at what I got out of the box without doing any code yet. So if I run this, I get a simple task pane with just a hello world that allows me to read some data from the selection. Like if I click this button, it shows me what is selected. So not very useful. Let's do something more interesting. So I'm going to close this. Now, one of the things I want to show you is we just announced also a new versioning model for our JavaScript API. So when you create one of these projects, the most important thing that you need to do in your HTML is to have the reference to our Office JavaScript library, office.js, which you can very easily reference from our CDN here. Now, the change that we just announced is that we went from a 2-number version model to just 1 number. And why is this relevant or important? Because with the 2 numbers, every time we change the version, even if there's no breaking changes, you as a developer had to update your add-in to get the latest changes. With the 1 version number, we're going to be able to rev minor changes without breaking your solution, but you will always be on the latest. So now you can just remove the point 1 and just say, I want version 1, regardless of what the point is, and you will always get the latest. So your solution will continue to be up to date with the latest we release. So I'm just going to do that. The tools will obviously be updated in the future to now start using the new versioning model. Now I want to show you one of the things that I want to talk about is OpenXML in Word is a very powerful API, and I want to use that for this example. So in this case, the out-of-the-box template is using getSelectedData and getting the text, but it is also possible to get the selection in the OpenXML format representation. So I'm going to change the code here and change the type or the format in which I'm getting that information to OpenXML. I'm going to also create a variable here to store that, because OpenXML is a little bit more verbose than just the text. And instead of showing that in a notification in my app, I'm going to show that in a text box. So the result of that function of getting the text, I'm going to assign it to my variable that I just created, and then I'm going to set that in a text box. Now let's go ahead and create that text box here. So I'll just add an HTML text area there. And then let's see how that looks like. So I'm going to run this project again and add some text. Now, if I select something and do get from selection, I'm going to get the OpenXML representation of that text. And why this is relevant? Because with OpenXML, you can represent anything that you can author in Word, smart art, equations, any type of complex object can be represented with OpenXML. And that means that your add-ins can also generate the same type of structures that any user can author. And we're going to take advantage of that powerful API to create our solution here. So I'm going to make some more changes here. I want to show you a trick in Visual Studio. You can add documents to use as your templates every time you do F5. So I'm going to come here and say, add an existing item. In this case, I have prepared already a project template. This is the document that I want to use when I debug my application. And I'm going to just tell Visual Studio, instead of opening a new Word document, open that template every time I press F5. That's just a simple change. Now, the other thing I want to show you is that you can not only read the OpenXML, you can actually write that OpenXML. So I'm going to change my project. I'm going to add a button that allows me to add that OpenXML, set the data. And I'm going to come here and click, hook up the click event for that button. You can see I'm using jQuery here. So this is one of the powerful aspects of the model. You can use any of the JavaScript frameworks that are popular on the web at the time you create the solution. jQuery, Angular, Bootstrap, anything you can use in your solution. So all I need to do is then add the setData function here. And the setData function is a simple call to our Office API. In this case, I'm calling the setSelectedData. And I'm passing the OXML variable that I created in the previous example. So let's see how that works. So I'm going to run my solution again. So this time, Word is going to open with that template that I added. You can see here's my template. This is what I want to automate. And this is the type of diagram that I would like my users to create very efficiently. So I'm going to insert my Team Builder app that I'm creating here. And I can save this document with the app in it. Now let me show you what we just did. Now I can select something complex like this. This is just to show you, this is smart art with a couple of additional objects on the bottom that is going to have a total and some average rates. So it's very nice looking, but it takes quite a bit of time to make this look good. I actually spent like good 20 to 30 minutes formatting the shades, the size of the fonts, making sure the layout is correct. So this is the time that I want to save my users. So if I say get data from selection, now I have the XML representation of that chart in my text box. Now, if I come here, let's see if my setData function works as well. So now I'm going to take that same thing and insert it at the end of the document. So very easy, just 2 calls with the OpenXML format and already very powerful. But I mean, we just implemented copy-paste, so it's really not yet very interesting, right? What I really want is this to have dynamic information. So you can see how this has some placeholders. And you can see how what I really want is those placeholders to contain the actual information that is coming from my SAP system or from my CRM system and populate those so that the user can just insert those diagrams with the right information already in place. So let's go ahead and do that. So back to Visual Studio. Let me erase this guy from here. So back to Visual Studio. I'm going to add some additional functionality to my application. The first thing I want to do here is I want to use Angular to make the data binding very easy for me. So I'm including Angular framework. So if you're familiar with Angular, you know how easy it is to create data binding to the UI in Angular. Now I'm going to replace this title that came out of the box with some HTML that hooks up my UI with an Angular data model that I'm going to create. So nothing super complex here, just a couple of divs with an Angular app and a corresponding Angular controller. There is a title. There is 4 select combo boxes where I will select the different team members and a running total. Now let's go ahead and create the data model behind that. So I'm going to add a model here. Again, I'm using Angular to define a model. In my controller, I'm going to initialize my scope or my model with some hard-coded data. But you can imagine here you could query any backend system that you would like. We're just going to use some hard-coded data for simplicity. And then some variables to get the selected team members as well as a running total. In this case, the running total is obviously a calculated function that I'm executing here. So you can see here's the calculation. So with that, I already have my Angular UI. I have my team members. I need now a function that allows me to replace those placeholders in the OpenXML with the actual selected team. So let's see, I have this assign team function that receives a template in OpenXML format, and it's going to do very simple, straightforward string replaces. Whenever this string is found, I'm going to replace it with the actual selected member, and obviously the calculated hours and the total will be there as well. And I'm going to come here. The last thing I need to do is, in this set selected data, instead of just passing the naked OpenXML that I just got, I'm going to first pass it through my assign team function that takes that OpenXML and is going to do the replacement before inserting it to the document. So this should make sense. Let's save, switch back to Word, refresh my app, and here's my new Angular UI. So now I'm going to come here, and I still need to select the template and get the data from the selection. Now I have that representation here. Oops, sorry, I didn't pick the last one. Let me come here. There we go. So get data from the selection. And now I'm going to go to the end of my document, and you can see how this data model is actually very functional. Simple but functional. It calculates the total. I can select different team members. In this case, let's keep the price below 8,000. And now I'm going to do a set data. And you can see now there is the diagram, but with the replacement. Now this is starting to be much more useful, right? I can see how users will be able to create these documents with my Office add-in. The last thing I want to do is the user shouldn't be able to create the diagram selected to insert it, right? So let's just add that last part of the puzzle here. So I'm going to close this. And I'm going to add to my project a simple text file here in the content folder. I have an existing item, which is that template. Basically, this is just a text file. It's the same text OpenXML that I had in the text box. I just copy-pasted, put it on a text file, and add it to the project. So that the user doesn't need to select anything. Now I'm going to then, instead of saying getting the data from the selection, I'm going to load the template. Just change the name of that button. And then in here, I'm going to go to that function that was reading the selection, get data from selection. And instead of getting the data from the selection, I'm going to load my template here. So this loading my template is a simple jQuery AJAX call to get that text file and assign it to the XML variable so that when I call set, it will be picked up and replaced with the right team members. So let's run this. And now I should be able to start with a document that doesn't have any diagram, come to the end, and load my template, success, configure my team the way I want it, and set the data. And now the template is loaded from a text file and inserted in Word. So now this is very powerful. Now, let's talk about one of the new capabilities that we just added last week, which is up to last week, it was not possible to run add-ins in Word Online. We just added support to Word Online. So let's see how this runs in Word Online. For that, I'm going to show you how to deploy it to your Office 365 environment in Word Online. So I'm going to close. And again, I will want to publish these, very similar to what we did with the first demo. Just going to create a new publishing profile and deploy these to Azure. So I'm going to select one of my Azure websites here, in this case my demo website, and just click Publish over HTTPS. So this is again going to take the solution that we just created and put it into that Azure location. And this is needed because Office Word Online is going to load it from there. Now it's taking a little bit. Here it is. So again, let's just make sure that it is there. So if I navigate to the home HTML page, we can see there's the solution. I can actually play with the Angular data model, but it's not connected to Office yet. So let's load it inside Office as an add-in. So I'm going to close this one and come here to my browser and navigate to, in this case, I have an app catalog set up with my Office 365 tenant. So I'm navigating to that private catalog. And a catalog is just a collection of XML manifests. So all I need to do is, similar to how I sideloaded to the iPad, I'm going to come here and tell Visual Studio, generate me the XML file that represents this add-in. Here it is. And I'm just going to drag and drop it into my catalog, which is effectively just a SharePoint list with a collection of XML files. Now that I dropped it there, now Word Online on that tenant knows how to show that add-in. So let's see that. I'm going to navigate to my OneDrive for Business, my personal OneDrive location in that tenant that already has that app, and then open this project template file in Word Online. So now I'm Word Online, and you can see this is an empty template. It doesn't have the team structure diagram, but I want to create a team structure diagram here, in addition to all the other text that I will need to do. And obviously, you could automate much more than just the team. But here I want to show you, I call my apps or add-ins eventually. And my Team Builder app is right there. You can see it. Let me actually refresh to make sure it's yeah, it is there. I'm going to insert it, and as expected, it should just work, right? So here I am. I'm going to configure my team. In this case, let's pick the RIN. Load the template. And I want to insert my diagram. So now I want to highlight that Word Online doesn't even support SmartArt yet. That support is probably coming in the future. But with this add-in, since you have the power of OpenXML, you can actually insert complex objects on behalf of the user, like this one that we just created. So this is actually some content that the user cannot create with Word Online itself, but it can create it with your add-in, because your add-in can do these types of things with the API. So you can see how this is now working there. Now, we just released this Word Online. We are working with the partners that already have Office add-ins there. I want to show you how the end-to-end scenario is very interesting with other Office add-ins from the store. In this case, I want to show you, let me close my Team Builder. I want to show you another add-in that it's already in the store, and it's now working in Word Online as well, DocuSign for Word. So this is an add-in created by DocuSign that allows me to digitally sign documents. So let's say I'm done with my proposal and I want to send it to the customer and sign it or get the signature. In this case, let me just sign this document. So I open the DocuSign app or add-in in Word Online, and I just click the sign button. This is going to load the document that I'm creating. In this case, you can see there's my document with my diagram. I like the diagram there, and I'm just going to drag my signature, initials, and date sign, and click Finish, and I'm done. In this case, no thanks, I don't want to send email. So document is signed, is sent over email to the customer, and I didn't even have to leave Word Online. I didn't even have to have a Word desktop installed. I could do this on the browser, on any machine, on my Mac. Now, the other thing that we are announcing is that this is coming to the iPad as well. So just for kicks, let me just show you how this whole scenario is also working on the iPad. So here in my iPad, or maybe not, you're not seeing it. Oh, wait a second. I was too fast. There we go. So now here in my iPad, I'm going to come to Word in this case and open that project template. It's the same project template that I just created. So there is my diagram. But I want to show you how the same way I was able to do this in online, if I come and insert add-ins, I already pre-side loaded the team builder manifest in the add-ins so that I can insert it. So I can have the same scenario working symmetrically on desktop, online, and in this case on the iPad. So I can load my template, and then at the end of the document, set the data, and then insert the same type of diagram here on the iPad. And obviously, we're working with our partners. This is something that hasn't been released yet. It's going to take us a couple more months to get the Word ready. But you can see how the bits are almost there, right? We have all this functionality. I can launch DocuSign in the iPad and do the same signature scenario, end-to-end functionality. And in this case, DocuSign created their add-ins such that it is touch-friendly. So I can come and, with my fingers, interact with this document. Again, I want to do my signature here. You can see how the UI in the iPad is slightly different, the way I insert my signature and my initials. And then, again, finish, and I'm done. So, again, hopefully you see this as a really compelling way to increase the productivity of your end users, and at the same time, avoid having to rewrite a lot of the code. You still have your users using Word. This is a productivity solution that will save them time, and it also saves you time as a developer. You didn't have to create multiple versions of this for different platforms, and you didn't have to create your own editor. You can rely completely on Word for users to continue to use their familiar editing experience. So, thank you. So let me just do a quick recap of what we have seen so far in the summary of the new capabilities that are already out there. So we saw the simplified getting started experience. So if you are learning about this, go there. It's really easy to learn. We saw add-ins in Excel for iPad. This is something we are announcing in this conference, and it's going to come later this month through the updates and the Apple Store. We saw add-ins in Word Online. We saw the simplified Office JS versioning. We have done also performance improvements to make sure that apps load faster, both on the desktop and online and on the iPad. And we didn't see a demo of these, but there was a demo about showing add-ins in Outlook for Mac. We did some updates that allow you to get your add-ins running on that environment. Now let me spend the last few minutes just talking about the roadmap. What is coming? What are the priorities? Where we are going with this platform? For those of you who attended the kickoff, you saw this slide. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I just want to say the most important priority for my team right now is to enable these platforms on all of the Office endpoints. So the blue is what is already available today. The green, we expect to have between 3 to 6 months from now. So you can see how we're focusing on iPad and the iPhone. And immediately after that, we're going to do Mac. So we're going to have the whole Apple platform covered with add-ins. And right after that, as fast as we can, we're going to do Android and the universal Windows apps. So this is one of our first priorities for the team going forward. Now, the second thing is we have heard feedback from people using Office add-ins or apps for Office today that they want deeper integration into Office. Right now, the APIs are in V1. There's a set of common APIs that allow you to do very cool stuff, as we saw with the OpenXML in Word. But there is much more that people want to do. So another priority for my team is to go deeper into the APIs, and we're going to start with Word and Excel and start introducing application-specific APIs. So far, we have delivered common APIs that you can use across Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. We're now going to go specific and deep into Excel and Word to enable scenarios like document assembly and data import, analysis, and visualization. So we'll give you access to objects like charts, like data connections, like worksheets, in Word, paragraphs, content controls. You will be able to manipulate all these objects in a much more granular way. The next aspect is the deeper UX integration. Another piece of feedback that we heard all the time, very loudly, is the ability to extend the UX itself of Office. So a very specific example and request is ability to project commands in the ribbon, which is something that you used to be able to do with COM and VS2 add-ins, and it's not available today. So that's another thing that we're focusing on. So you will see we're starting to add support for what we call adding commands, ability to project commands on the ribbon, on context menu, so that your users can find the apps in the familiar places where they would expect that functionality. We're starting with Outlook, so you probably saw some of the demos of these adding commands in Outlook. If not, there is a session today at 1:30 that will focus on Outlook add-ins, which we didn't cover today, and they will show how we are enabling these adding commands to project on the user interface. And we're going to expand also the types of add-ins that you can create. Today we have task panes and we have these content add-ins that allow you to be inside the document. We're going to start hooking up into new entry points, like for example, the file menu. If you have a printing solution or you want to save to a different location, not OneDrive or not the local machine, but your custom repository, we're going to enable to create add-ins that extend those functions, and the users will find them in the right places. So the idea is to give the functionality to the user where they will expect to see it. And lastly, we're going to continue to provide more and more developer resources. We want to make sure that when you create these add-ins, you have all the tools that you need to create them. Obviously, samples and documentation. We are starting the developer program. We're going to start sharing the extensibility roadmap going forward so that you know what APIs are coming. There's going to be beta of the APIs so that you can try them and give us feedback before we actually release them. And we also want to give you toolkits so that you can create these add-ins more easily. So let me show you one last demo of some of the things that we're thinking to provide as a developer resource. So in terms of creating the UI, we have received a lot of requests for help and guidance on how to create add-ins that look good inside Office and inside the different environments that Office has. So for this, I just want to show you some early project we are creating that we expect to be really useful for add-in developers. The idea of this is that we want to provide visual templates that you can use to style your add-in so that the UI is really familiar from an Office user perspective. So we expect to provide a set of UI templates that are compatible with popular web frameworks like Bootstrap or Angular that you can integrate into your app to achieve things like you can use and get access to the standard fonts that Office uses. iconography. So if you want to have icons that look and feel like Office, you will have those accessible to you in a toolkit. Colors and theme information, so that if you want your add-in to be themed like Excel, you can do that by requesting that through an API and applying those themes. Also, templates for different types of controls like buttons, selections, etc. In this case, I want to show you also how we're going to deliver these. So we expect to deliver these in a very flexible and open way. Right now, the way this is materialized is through a set of CSS files and JavaScript files that you can include in your project. That's all you need to do. And then after that, you just reference the classes that we provide. So if you want to create something that shows up like a navbar, you will just assign that class to that HTML element, and there you go. And then the nice thing about this is that it is completely compatible with other frameworks like Bootstrap or Angular. In this case, I have this particular example where I'm implementing a list of things that looks like an Office list, but I'm using Angular to populate that list. So let me show you how this looks like here. So if I come here, I have an insert table function that inserts a table here. And you can see how this list is created using those classes, those templates that are themed like Office. I'm using also some of the icons provided in the toolkit so that you don't need to worry about too much getting those icons if you don't want to change them. You, of course, can always use whatever iconography you want, but the idea is to make it really easy. So if I change something here, you can see, oh, let me just click here. Oh, it seems my data binding for some reason is not. Oh, it is. Not sure why this is not. It's the description that is being shown there. So you can see how this demo is completely functional, and I'm using Angular along with the templates that we provide. So the idea is not to be closed, but allow you to still use any framework you want, and at the same time be able to take advantage of this type of toolkit or visual guidance. Now, just to wrap up, I have two call to actions. One is specific to this session. So please learn more at that dev.office.com Get Started experience. That's the place where you want to go and start creating your add-ins with Napa or with any tool of choice. If you have add-ins or you're creating new add-ins, you can start testing now with Word Online and very soon on the iPad. So make sure that you include these on your designs and your scenarios. It's really important that you think about your add-in running in these environments when you're designing. When you create your web page, make it responsive so that it adapts to the size of the device, because it's going to be running on smaller devices and bigger devices. We obviously will provide guidance, and part of the toolkit that we'll provide is we will provide you a responsive grid that you can adopt if you want in order to create a UI that adapts to the size. We talked about the new versioning, and we released a new manifest schema, so start using the new manifest version 1.1 and start using the new versioning scheme for the Office JavaScript so that you get the benefits of the latest releases all the time. And then last thing, please provide us feedback to officespdev.uservoice.com. We really look at all the entries there, and this is where we learn what are the things that you want to do, what are the gaps in the platform, and we use this a lot to prioritize. So please go there, see what people are asking, both for the favorite requirements or add the new ones if you don't find what you're looking for. And then lastly, sign up for the developer program. So if you go to our booth in the expo, you can sign up for the developer program. There's some perks that you get by doing that. You get some free developer subscription to Office 365, as well as free controls from Telerik and free services from a provider that allows you to do marketing campaigns. You also get the newsletters and the webinars, so you'll be in the loop to know about new releases or new preview programs coming up. So with that, I want to wrap up the session. Thank you very much for being here.